What I think is so powerful again about this is the opportunity to see this as a grand adventure that is the theme of our entire life, this journey. We are the hero of our own story. I think that what I've heard it said before is where if you're writing a story, you are the author, you hold the pen. And so you are the hero. And when we step up, and yes, there's challenges, there's that part of refusal. We're living in the ordinary world, but all of us can start this grand adventure. We can become the hero of our alcohol free life. Welcome to the Sober Edge Podcast, inspiration for alcohol free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast, and it's just you and me today. I'm excited to share a solo episode. It's been a little while. I've had so many amazing guests. So today I want to talk about the hero's journey. And this is a story framework that was identified by Joseph Campbell, and that we see this ongoing theme running through so many of the stories that come out of mythology and the movie industry and novels, and just, such an example of this common theme around the hero. And what I want to share with you today is I want to take a look at this framework around your own journey to alcohol freedom. And this wouldn't be the first time I've talked about this. I touched on it a little bit in a blog that I did around The Wizard of Oz, but I've always been struck how The Wizard of Oz reminds me of my own alcohol free journey, because when I stopped drinking, I felt like my life went from black and white to technicolor. And it reminded me so much of The Wizard of Oz because, you know, Dorothy is thrust into this adventure and she's got allies, but she also has enemies, and she has, danger, but she has excitement, and she finds her way. And then it turns out that she had the power within her all along. And so there were so many parallels. And I never really stopped to think that, of course, this makes sense because the hero's journey, as outlined by Joseph Campbell, is the Wizard of Oz. Like, it follows it to a T. And so the purpose of doing this is to help you understand that this is a mythology, a method, I should say, or it's points to the idea that we are on this journey and it looks familiar. There's a pattern to it. There's a nuance to it. And that's because the identification of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell is from real life. It's that art imitates life. It's not that he created this story and now we're all following it. No, he identified that this is a pattern. And, we see it also with Jesus. We see it in so many of our historical texts. And so I think it's really powerful to explore your own alcohol free journey, and you get to be the hero of your own story. So, first, I just want to share kind of the framework around the hero's journey and what is identified with the hero's journey. And so, most people say there's somewhere between 12 and 17 steps. Some people simplify it and there's a few less steps. But Joseph Campbell kind of goes to 12 steps. And so the first three steps he calls part one. And this is the call to adventure. Then we move on to part two, where there's three steps, and it is the ordeal or the initiation. And then part three is the transformation. And then part four is the road back or the hero's return. And so that might sound very dramatic when we think about our own life, but I want to help you explore exactly how this fits into the framework of your alcohol-free journey. And my hope and my hunch is that this is going to help you feel more empowered and more confident about this process of what you're going through. And so in the first part, we look at the hero or, the individual that we meet. And in this case, it would be you or it would be me. And so here we are in the ordinary world. And as we know, our ordinary world is saturated in alcohol. Our ordinary world has alcohol at the gas station, at the grocery store, at the restaurants, at the events, at, the kiddie pool. I mean, alcohol is everywhere. You can even get alcohol now in parts of Disney World. And so this is our beginning. We're in this ordinary world. And then we're called to adventure. And so for me, and I think for so many of you, this looks like that small voice bubbling up, that tap on the shoulder, where we know our intuition shows up and says, hey, there's something more out here for you. Come this way. There's a grand adventure waiting. And of course, it may not feel like an adventure at the time. Many of us are reluctant. And I know I kind of went kicking and screaming into my own adventure when I think about it because I resisted for a long time. And it's, this call to adventure. There is a calling to explore what our life could look like without alcohol. And what a beautiful opportunity. However, that doesn't mean it's easy to answer the call or to say yes. And then the very next step, in fact, is the refusal. Nope. I'm fine where I am. Maybe I could just moderate or cut back on my drinking, or perhaps I'll stop drinking next year. Or, my drinking's not nearly a problem. It's not bad enough to stop yet. Like I could certainly keep drinking. I've got it under control. And we throw up all of this resistance. We actually, have this place where, we really do look at that call to adventure, that call to change, and we say, no thanks. And again, it's so powerful to look at this as a common theme that runs through humanity. So you're not doing it wrong. You're not making a mistake. You're not the odd man out. This is actually the framework for so much of what happens when we make these changes in our life. And so then when we get to number four, we actually have, now we're in part two. So along comes some help. And it could look like an ally, it could look like a mentor. If we take The Wizard of Oz, for example, we see that the good witch Glenda shows up, and then soon she appoints a few more helpers. And so in your alcohol-free journey, it may look like an author who writes a book, and it's a powerful call. It's a powerful response to this venture that you're on. It could look like a coach. It could look like a group that you join. It could look like a sponsor. It could look like Alcoholics Anonymous and going to meetings. So there's so many ways that mentors can show up. And then the next part of that, the ordeal is the crossing the threshold. And this is really important because, we can feel that call to adventure. We can even have someone come up to show support, but it's really stepping into action. It's starting the process. It's putting down the drink. It's creating that momentum of the first day, the second day, the next day, the 30 days. And so we have to step into action, and every hero does. There's no change without action. And so, crossing the threshold is important. That is such a key step. So if you are somewhere in that first call to adventure, and I love the idea of framing it as a call to adventure as opposed to like this life of deprivation, this place where I have to give up alcohol or I spoiled it for myself. I can't drink anymore. I ruined it. I've heard that language, and I just think it's so empowering to say this is a call to adventure. Because again, what if you get to the other side and your life is no longer black and white? Instead, it's technicolor. And so after we cross the threshold, we have tests. We have allies and we have enemies. And if you are in this alcohol free journey yourself, or perhaps you've already crossed over and you're not drinking and you're living this amazing life, you probably can look back and see that there was challenges and that there were allies that showed up and there were enemies. And your enemies may look like well-meaning family members who encourage you to drink or say, why did you stop? It really wasn't a problem. Or perhaps it's someone who is no longer wants to spend time with you, or your group of friends doesn't invite you to, the camping trip because you're not drinking. And so we do experience this very key part of that hero's journey where there are tests and trials. Perhaps you have a very challenging time. Perhaps you have to share and have a hard conversation with a loved one and ask for their support. And so there will be trials and tests. And then, the next part is now we're moving into the transformation part. And this is the part that I also think of as like where we are getting our practice reps in, where we're getting stronger, we're building those muscles. Things are happening and we're starting to see results. We're starting to feel better. We're starting to feel more confident about sharing with other people. We're starting to make different choices. We're starting to have more energy about the life we want to build. We're starting to feel less deprived and more entitled and empowered. And so, the next part is kind of the approach. So now we're moving to this area and we're recognizing, like, wow, this is the life I get to live. I don't have to drink anymore. I don't have to numb out and avoid things. I don't have to waste time. I don't have to avoid feelings. And the next part of this transformation is often called the ordeal or even the death and the rebirth. And so I think there is a little bit of this dying to our old self so that we can start to recognize our powerful new self. We're really living into that hero's adventure at this point. And then the treasure. So there's a treasure. In the hero's journey, there's always something that the hero discovers that's a treasure. And for us, certainly it was true for me, but for us on this adventure, we are now in this place where, wow, I feel amazing. Life is incredible. I feel so much better. I've had time alcohol free, and I'm starting to get my real life back. I'm starting to connect with people again. I'm starting to feel more present. My job is going better. My health is improving. I mean, what better treasure is there than that? And that final part of the hero's journey is the road back, the hero's return. And so we see that now we have recognition that things have changed. And we're in this place where we're moving into this powerful growth. And people can see it. They can see the way we look physically. They can see the way that we're showing up different. People might be coming up to you and saying, something's different about you. I'm noticing a spark. Tell me what you're doing. What's changed? And you are starting to recognize when you look in the mirror, yes, I have changed. This transformation is really here to stay. This is sticking. I have changed. I have new identity around not being a drinker. I have a new identity as an alcohol-free human. For me, it looked like telling people I used to drink. I no longer do that. And then we have this beautiful place of our reward. And so now we're in this alcohol free life. We've come back. We've traveled that wheel from, being called to action and then refusing and then getting some help and then showing up and then crossing the threshold, facing the trials, continuing through the ordeal, reaching that treasure point. And now we actually are living an alcohol free life. And in, The Wizard of Oz, one of course, my favorite parts and the most powerful part, I think, of the whole movie is when Dorothy is told at the very end that she didn't need the wizard. She didn't need the power of the witch. She didn't need any of that, that she had the power inside of her. She just needed to believe in herself. And, when we think about the hero's journey, this is us, right? We're in that very key place of feeling that voice, feeling that calling, sensing something more. And yes, there will be trials, but there will also be mentors and allies, and there will be treasures and reward, and there will be a road back to where you're still you, but you've also been through this beautiful transformation. And so that hero's return. And, what I think is so powerful again about this is the opportunity to see this as a grand adventure that is the theme of our entire life, this journey. We are the hero of our own story. I think that what I've heard it said before is where if you're writing a story, you are the author, you hold the pen. And so you are the hero. And when we step up, and yes, there's challenges. There's that part of refusal. We're living in the ordinary world, but all of us can start this grand adventure. We can become the hero of our alcohol free life. So, I just have been struck by this lately, thinking about how this theme plays into this grand adventure that you and I are living out as we choose to explore alcohol free living. And, the beautiful thing, I think, is the ongoing story. The next time we choose a new venture, we get a calling again. We're called to something greater. If you're familiar with, like the Star Wars adventures stories, I think it was a trilogy, but now, of course, there's many, many more editions. We see that Luke Skywalker doesn't just have one adventure. After he grows and he is now the returning hero, he is called again to something new. And once we go through and recognize this beautiful gift of going on this grand adventure and being the hero of our own story, we might answer that call to the next adventure a little sooner. And we might step up and believe in ourselves just a little bit more. And then the grand adventure just keeps getting richer and deeper and more exciting. So, this was fun to put together today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you will start to notice these themes in your own life and this universal theme and recognize and celebrate the progress that you are making at any point along that journey, that hero's journey. And I want to celebrate you as a hero of your own adventure. All right. Well, that's what I've got for you today. My family's heading off on vacation. We are going to take a break, and this episode's going to drop while we are in the Redwood Forest. I cannot wait to go and see what adventure awaits me there. Take care. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.